All right, we got some breaking news out of the NFL where the Jonathan Taylor saga continues. He will not be traded. We just passed the deadline given by the Colts, but he will be placed on the PUP list. So Jonathan Taylor, former rushing king, as well as 2,000 all-purpose yards back a couple seasons before he had an ankle injury to deal with last year. Taking a look at their schedule again: Jags, Texans, Ravens, and Rams to start out the year for a team with a new quarterback, new head coach, trying to compete in a division, though, that is still somewhat attainable. All right. Let's get things started. I'm Tommy Tran, joined on set by our GM Rick Spielman and Pete Prisco. Same jacket, gentlemen. Good call. And we've also got Brady Quinn joining us from home as well. So, Rick, I'll start with you. Given everything we know about the situation, the deadline has now come and gone. What do you make of what's happening in Indy right now?
Well, it may not be done and gone because the October deadline is the final deadline you can make a trade. So they may try to get him healthy. Maybe that's why they couldn't move him. Because of the ankle injury, and he wasn't going to be ready for another team. So I don't think this saga's over. I think that they still may try to trade him before the October deadline.
Before anything, I want to congratulate Rick. He made it through the cuts. But you know what? They still have waiver claims tomorrow. You can still be in trouble. He's not healthy, and that was always something that we thought could happen. We said it today, Tommy, earlier today. I said that ankle injury is an issue. We don't know what it is. So is it a real ankle injury or is it not a real ankle injury? The fact of the matter is he's going to be missing 4 games, and obviously teams out there had to be a little concerned about the ankle injury. But more than that, compensation and paying. It's a bad thing to do in the NFL. You're giving away draft pick compensation and you're paying a player. That means you get hit twice by it. I didn't like it. That's why I think he plays for the Colts.
We got Brady Quinn standing by as well. Brady, what are your thoughts on what's just happening there with Jonathan Taylor and the Colts?
I tend to side more with Rick on this one, where I feel like the saga's not over. And it might play out better for the Indianapolis Colts, where they find a trade suitor who might be more in need due to injury at the running back position, or maybe after the first 4 weeks they feel like for the right price, he might help them be able to make a playoff run or that last missing piece that they're looking for. So, look, it's unfortunate things got the way they were. I'd be curious to know if they weren't going to go this far. I know he had the ankle injury, and that's obviously why he wasn't dealt and now put on the PUP list. But if Jim Irsay just doesn't, make those comments saying that if he was the guy and Jonathan Taylor's no longer in the league, no one would care. I'm wondering if that wasn't kind of the final straw to this whole saga in regards to Jonathan Taylor at least wanting to play for the Indianapolis Colts.
Brady brings up a great point. Rick, again, I'll defer to you. What happens when you have an outspoken owner like Jim Irsay, when you have to then not only negotiate behind the scenes, but when you have an owner that makes public comments, you have to deal with everything out there as well?
Well, I haven't had to really deal with that, but you feel like you're at the bottom of the circus at the end, and you got a bucket and shovel and picking up everything as it goes along. But the most important thing that I always felt was the relationship with the agent, the relationship with the player. And even if you were going to trade him, you have to be upfront and honest with everything you're going to do. And I don't know if Indy was upfront and honest with it. I don't know if this is all Chris Ballard, because I have the utmost respect for Chris Ballard and what he is as a personnel guy and the way he has drafted and put that team together. I don't think this is all Chris Ballard.
It's just a weird situation that the owner didn't make any easier by making those comments. And again, we don't know where the injury is. There's also talk that he had a back injury. He denied that, so I don't know where that came from. It's a bad situation, but the bottom line is he's a running back, and running backs are going to be persecuted in this league going forward. There's not going to be mega deals for running backs anymore. Those days are done. So best case scenario for him, if he goes back to the Colts, runs for in that, with missing the 4 games, he still runs for 1,500 yards or something. What's the best case scenario? They'll tag him. So he can't win. He's in a no-win situation for him because of the position he plays.
So we know that the running back position has been devalued, but Brady, I'm going to give you first word here in terms of his ankle. We know he's coming back from injury, but would we be having a different conversation if Jonathan Taylor was coming off back-to-back 1,500-yard plus seasons and producing the way he did 2 years ago?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I think Rick's probably better off answering that question. I mean, I think I'd go back to just the point, though, that Pete made is, look, I understand there's the ankle injury, maybe it was a back injury. Only they know the true medical behind the scenes. I would just say, for a player, though, when you have an owner that kind of just openly speaks out really being indifferent about whether or not you're on the roster, given what he's been able to accomplish before the injuries took place, it's going to have a sour taste in your mouth. If you look at the situation with Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, 2 running backs who obviously wanted to have long-term deals, wanted to have better deals, and they found out, as Pete's pointed out, there's not much of a market out there for you. Okay, that may be the case, but they were both able to come back to each of their teams and work something out. It seems like there's been too big of a fracture here because of Jim Irsay and how outspoken he's been. And Rick, this has nothing to do with Chris Ballard. This has to do with the players just saying, I'm not playing for that guy. You know, not Chris Ballard, speaking of Jim Irsay, especially if he's going to be outspoken the way he has been. So I think that's led us to this point. And, you know, whether or not Jonathan Taylor is able to find a better market, or once he's healthy, be able to find, the Colts can find a trade partner where he can go out and flourish and find the deal he's looking for, it's probably not there. But to me, this is more of a relationship issue than anything else.
Okay, if the Colts said, hey, Jonathan Taylor, we're going to give you a 5-year deal averaging $14 million a year, you think he'd still be upset with Jimmy Irsay? Nobody plays for the owner. You play for yourself and your contract. Give me a break. Brady, look, I know it doesn't help the situation, but Jonathan Taylor has fault here as well.
Well, I don't know if it's Jonathan. I really question how bad the ankle injury is. Is this a way that the Colts or Jonathan Taylor continues his hold in, as they like to say? So maybe you talked about Tony Pollard and the injury and he went through and he's ready to go. No one really heard about how significant this ankle injury is. So maybe this is continuing to be a hold in.
So you're saying he's jaking it then?
I'm not saying he's jaking it. I'm just saying I haven't heard of this long of an ankle injury.
You're putting it out there.
He doesn't seem to understand, like, there are relationships that matter in all of this. And sure, Pete, of course, let's just throw out a ridiculous hypothetical that no running back's gotten, and let's try to make that as our case for why he'd come back and sign with the Colts. And that's not reality. The reality is, I'm talking about guys who came back and signed a 1-year deal who are into the franchise tender. And in this case, I realize he's in a tough spot, but maybe if you didn't make those comments, you could have got him to come back, play this season once he's healthy, and if you tag him, you tag him. But at least he's a happy player under those circumstances, as opposed to now, you know, staring at an owner that really doesn't care. He's already made his case why he's not going to give you a long-term deal. So why would he want to sit around and try to play for this guy?
He was complaining about things the way they were before Irsay made the comment, so he wasn't happy to begin with. Brady, yeah, did he throw fuel on the fire? Absolutely, but he wasn't happy to begin with. But he was angry about his contract situation.
But this isn't Jonathan Taylor being the bad guy. This is a guy getting taken advantage of because he's a great character, great human being, great football player going into the last year of his deal. And normally, if you are a core player for an NFL team, we always felt that we had to take care of them when we always extended those guys a year before they got out of contract.
Okay, extend them, but what are you giving him? I mean, what are you giving him? A 3-year deal that gives him...
You look at what the franchise tag is,
okay,
and then you go off of that, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that range.
Would he take that? He probably
would take it in
that.
a heartbeat. He's only going to make 4 something this year.
Yeah, well, the bottom line is running backs are no longer getting the mega contracts, and that's where the issues are starting to happen.
Brady, before we move on, I'll give you a final word. What do you think of Jonathan Taylor? Last word.
Yeah, I just say the last word is, look, it's better for the Colts, it's better for the league when one of your best running backs is back there playing, regardless of what Pete thinks your value is. And so that's the frustrating part here is, and hopefully there's a team that's out there that it's looking to pick him up and bring him on at some point in time, so he is back out there once he's healthy. But to sit there and try to make this case like Pete does, look, Pete, we understand the running back market's not what it used to be. You don't have to devalue the person and the whole situation like Jim Irsay essentially did. You can admit that Irsay was wrong in saying what he said and then still also agree that the running back market isn't what it used to be. It's okay to say both things are correct.
No, I'm not arguing that. He was wrong to say what he said, but to say that that's the reason why Jonathan Taylor isn't happy is ridiculous. He's not happy because of the money, period.
But there's a relationship there, too, and that relationship is fractured, and Jonathan Taylor did not fracture that relationship.
Does he have a relationship with his head coach? Does he have a relationship with his general manager? Who cares what the owner thinks?
The owner is the one that pulls the strings.
Well, I get that. That's why he's not happy. If the owner gave him his contract, he'd say, hey, Jim, everything's great. Come on over. We'll go have dinner somewhere.
You don't know.
Go to St. Elmo's and get dinner.